Hey guys, so while there hasn't been a lot of movies that I've wanted to see in the theaters recently, I decided to catch up on a movie that I missed in 2018 that I really wanted to see. Bo Burnham's directorial debut, 8th Grade. So, let's talk about it!
Just grab my phone, how to charge it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I charge it too, but my phone,
Just because things are happening right now doesn't mean they're always gonna happen.
What was in there?
Just sort of my hopes and dreams.
Right.
I was a complete mess when I was your age.
Really?
8th grade is the worst.
You never know what's next. And that's what makes things exciting and scary and fun.
So, 8th Grade is, as I said earlier, the directorial debut of Bo Burnham. This was both written and directed by him, and it stars Elsie Fisher as Kayla and Josh Hamilton as Mark, her father, among other people that I personally don't really know or have seen in other films. Before I continue this review, as pretense I should say that I am a big Bo Burnham fan. Maybe not big Bo Burnham fan, but I am a fan of Bo Burnham. I'm a fan of his comedy and his music, and I find myself relating to a lot of his sentiments that, you know, he expresses through his music and his comedy. I like his shit, essentially. One of my go-to things to watch when I'm feeling absolutely fucking horribly depressed is his special Make Happy. I really do like Bo Burnham stuff, and I really wanted to like 8th Grade. I really wanted to like it. 8th Grade is about Kayla, played by Elsie Fisher, who is this 8th grade girl going through puberty and trying to overcome her lack of confidence and things like that. Things that I think a lot of young people and just people in general who have experienced middle school go through. Lack of confidence, being nervous all the time, feeling strange about putting yourself out there, not having a whole lot of friends. And, you know, I mean, these are things that I think a lot of people can relate with. I mean, there's really, I guess not much to explain about, like, plot-wise, about, like, what happens, but they're really about going into spoilers, and I guess there's really no reason to continue explaining that it really just is a coming-of-age movie about an 8th grader. I mean, the movie's called 8th Grade. I can't really get any more simplistic than that. I thought the acting was fine. I thought Elsie Fisher as Kayla was perfectly fine. A perfectly fine actress, as was her father Mark, played by Josh Hamilton. I felt that, you know, I think everyone in this movie was solid, gave a solid performance. I did feel that certain scenes that were supposed to be more emotional didn't really convince me. And, you know, it didn't really feel that emotional. I was trying so hard to connect to, you know, these characters, and I just felt like that there wasn't much of a connection because they just didn't seem as emotionally invested as I would have been in the people in their lives. Even though everybody was, I think, perfectly suitable in their roles, I was not always convinced that they really could maybe pull off the emotions that Bo Burnham was trying to convey through their presence on screen. I just felt that maybe they could have done a better job or find better actors who could have been that emotional, because really it wasn't very convincing. The movie was frustrating at times, and maybe that was the intent, I'm not sure, but Kayla is always acting like, for lack of a better word, a fucking asshole to her dad, who's just trying to be a fucking parent. And, like, I get that, like, sometimes we can be assholes to our parents. I mean, children are sometimes assholes to their parents, but, like, I was never like this to my fucking parents. And, I mean, I'm fairly certain that I can go ask my mom right fucking now if I was ever like this to her, and I'm pretty sure she would tell me fucking no. If I was her dad and she was talking to me like this, I mean, this was my fucking daughter, and she was talking to me like she talks to her dad in this, like, I'd smack her upside her fucking head. Like, this is some white people shit. Like, she needs to be fucking punished. Like, it's inexcusable. And, I mean, it was frustrating in that regard because, like, she's acting like an asshole to her dad, and her dad is just not punishing her. He's just accepting it because he has no fucking balls, apparently, or something. It's frustrating. Like, why don't you just say this? Why don't you just act this way? Just say this. This is your fucking child. Or, hey, you're in this situation. Maybe just say this. This would probably be better than making up some fucking digging yourself into a hole. And this movie does try to do that where it's like, oh, the movie tries to have like secondhand cringe or secondhand awkwardness where you feel embarrassed because the characters are embarrassing themselves. And I have seen other movies do this way fucking better than this movie does. This almost like this movie didn't try. It was just assuming that you would feel embarrassed because the character is digging themselves a verbal hole that they then have to work themselves out of. And this does lead to a really like dark part, like a dark scene that I think that many girls in the world can maybe relate, like, unfortunately to. It's shitty that you would have to relate to a thing like that, but it's in any other sense, in any other part of the movie where the character is digging themselves a verbal hole and embarrassing themselves in that regard, I wasn't feeling embarrassed because it happens so many times in this movie. You can call it a character trait, but at a certain point you're like, come the fuck on. Like, really? Really? It was disappointing in this movie in total was disappointing to me. I mean, there are plots that are kind of set up and then just aren't done anything with. Like, you know, the whole time she's like has like this huge crush on this guy who we're told is an asshole. And she tries to like hearing about like, oh, why he broke up with his previous girlfriend because she wouldn't send him dirty pictures or something. So she's like, oh, that's weird. But then she'll go out of her way to try to be like, oh, hey, I have dirty pictures on my phone. And, you know, this little boy who's, you know, just a horny fucking 14-year-old who literally all he cares about is seeing a girl naked and getting a blowjob. And, you know, she's like, oh, yeah, I totally do that. And it's just dropped. It doesn't go anywhere. Like, he seems interested. He seems like, oh, like, I felt like maybe that was going to go somewhere. Like, I felt like maybe the dark scene that happens in the movie doesn't happen with him. And I felt like maybe thematically or plot-wise, it would make more sense to happen with him, but it doesn't. It happens with somebody else. And you're like, why did they just drop this character? Why did you just drop that thread you were sewing in this movie? Why not follow through with this? Why set this up, making us think that you're expecting these two characters to, you know, have a development of some sort, and then just not do anything with that. It made no sense to me. The character Kayla makes videos on the internet where she tries to give advice, and, you know, constantly we're seeing her life, you know, overlaid with the audio of her recording her own advice, and she's having a hard time following her own advice that she likes to give other people. And we can obviously see throughout this movie that we're like, oh, she's the one that needs this advice. Like, she likes giving this advice, and it is good advice, but she's the one who needs it more. And just in case you're too fucking stupid to figure that out very fucking obviously in this movie, it tells you. They literally explain it out loud. And I get that she's like, you know, making a video, and so she's literally narrating things, and like she's literally talking to us as an audience. When she makes these videos, she's talking to the camera. She's talking to us as an audience through the camera. And like as audience members, we pick up like, oh, she's the one who really needs this advice. But then the movie thinks we're fucking dumb and can't figure that out, so it's really like, I can't take my own advice. Like, no fucking shit. We already fucking knew that. I'm glad you caught up, but we already fucking knew that. I actually found it really hard to relate to this movie. I mean, I get it. People obviously relate to this movie very much. I mean, I've seen so many people talk about this movie saying they like had like little mini panic attacks with flashbacks to their own childhood watching this movie. And like, I found it extremely hard to relate because Kayla's biggest issue in this movie has nothing to do with her being a girl, has nothing to do with her, you know, using social media. I mean, like, I didn't get MySpace until I was a fucking sophomore in fucking high school. My lack of being able to relate has nothing to do with the generational thing. It's literally being in middle school. Kayla's whole thing in middle school is that she's too quiet and she's ignored and she doesn't have a lot of friends. She feels in school, she feels invisible. She wants to be out there. She wants to have friends. She wants to be able to hold down a conversation with somebody. But she just feels ignored and she feels invisible. In fucking middle school, I was ridiculed. In elementary school and middle school, I was fucking ridiculed. I would have given anything to be fucking invisible in school. So that being her issue was completely a non-thing for me. Like, I couldn't relate. I'm like, oh, your thing is that you feel invisible? I would give anything to feel invisible in fucking middle school. Like, I get it. People relate to it, and I can appreciate that. I can appreciate people relating to this movie because obviously people very much do relate to this movie. This movie's got nothing but, I've heard nothing but praise about this movie. And I wanted so much to be able to relate to anybody in this fucking movie. Her problem, I never had an issue. My issue was that people couldn't stop fucking with me. I would have given anything to feel invisible in middle school. So fuck that. I can't relate to that. Oh, you're invisible? Boo fucking who? That's awesome you're fucking invisible. I would love to feel fucking invisible. Are you fucking kidding me? I don't know, man. I relate so much to Bo Burnham's material in his music and his comedy and his shows. And I wanted to relate to this. I really did. I really wanted to relate and like this. I really wanted to feel something watching this. And I just couldn't. It just didn't click for me, man. Like, it's just feels like bullshit, and it's disappointing. I'm disappointed that I didn't enjoy this as much as everyone else is enjoying this. I mean, look, if you like this movie, if you related to this movie, more power to you. I'm glad you found something you can relate to. I'm glad you found something that speaks to you and speaks to your soul and speaks to your experience. That's great. Good for you. I love that. That's awesome that you can find some solace in that there's a shared experience among you. However, to me, this is fucking nothing. Don't get me wrong, it's a solid directorial debut for Bo Burnham. He obviously wrote about something that he feels connected to and that he knows that a lot of other people will feel connected to because the guy's a bright guy. The guy knows what he's fucking talking about, and you know, he obviously knows that people have similar experiences in middle school. However, this just isn't my experience. I'm disappointed. And I can appreciate that this works for some, but it didn't work for me. And so I have to give 8th grade a 3 out of 5. I mean, it's a solid entry for Bo Burnham as a writer and director. I wish it was better. And I wish that whatever film or project he does next is better than 8th grade, because this just didn't do it for me. And I am disappointed in that. Anyway, thank you for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe. Please follow me on social media. I have one handle. It's @TheShaneWatson. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I also started streaming a video game every Saturday. So by the time this review goes up, I would have had my 2nd Saturday stream. Please come in for my 3rd and watch me play a video game for a couple hours. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.